Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea that's hidden in a place most of us never even think to look, the actual structure of language itself. We're going to see how ancient grammar can offer this pretty radical new blueprint for our modern mindset. All right, let's get right into it.
So let's just start with this question, because it's a big one. What if the very words you use every day, the rules of how you build a sentence, what if they made it almost impossible to see yourself as a victim? I mean, think about it. How would that change how you experience, well, everything?
Okay, so to really unpack this, we have to get super clear on one key concept: agency. Now, in this context, agency is not about controlling everything that happens to you. I mean, that's impossible, right? Instead, it's about taking 100% ownership of your stance towards life, your response, your conduct, no matter what's going on around you. It's not about stopping the rain, it's about choosing to bring an umbrella. It's a choice you make from moment to moment.
So, if agency is our internal posture, where does language come in? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into in this first section, how this whole principle can be woven right into the fabric of how we communicate.
Just let that sink in for a minute. It's one thing for someone to tell you, hey, take some responsibility. But it's something else entirely if your language, just by its grammar, requires you to place yourself as the active person in your own life story, even when you're talking about tough stuff. What would that even look like?
Well, it turns out this isn't just some hypothetical thought experiment. Let's take a look at a real-world example of this in action. Let's look at the Tamazight blueprint.
So, Tamazight is this ancient language spoken by the Amazigh peoples of North Africa. And what's really important here isn't just how old it is, but where it came from. This is a language that wasn't born from comfort and ease. It was literally forged over thousands of years of survival in really harsh, unforgiving places, mountains, deserts. And out of that reality, its speakers built a language not of grievance, but of stance.
So, what does this linguistic blueprint for agency actually look like? Well, first off, Tamazight really favors the active voice. Basically, that means the subject of the sentence is always the one doing the action, so it's grammatically hard to just disappear. Second, it's built around this core value called nif. Think of it as this deep, unshakable self-respect or inner honor that you just refuse to compromise, no matter what's happening on the outside. Third, while suffering is definitely named and acknowledged, it's not used as an excuse for inaction. And finally, its idea of time is more cyclical, which kind of nudges people away from getting stuck replaying the past over and over.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the shift here. It's so subtle, but so powerful. This happened to me. That's passive. You're the object. But I endured this, or I stood through this. It acknowledges the exact same reality, but it keeps you as the active, present agent. The event outside doesn't change, but in the Tamazight version, your role as the one who stands and endures is never, ever erased.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's interesting, but it's just one isolated language, right? Well, not exactly. As we're about to see, Tamazight is actually one expression of a much deeper, universal human pattern.
Yeah. It turns out when you start looking at other languages that were also shaped by the raw necessities of survival and responsibility, they often land on very similar structural conclusions. It's not about them sharing a history, it's about them sharing a deep understanding of what it takes to endure.
For instance, get this. In some Australian Aboriginal languages, you have to use cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, instead of left and right. To even speak, you have to be constantly aware of your orientation. So you can't really say, I got lost, because getting lost isn't something that happens to you. It's framed as an internal thing, a lapse in your own attention.
And we see the same pattern popping up in other traditions too. Think about the worlds of classical Japanese samurai or the Old Norse sagas. Hardship is just a given, right? What defines a person, their honor, their whole identity, isn't what they suffer, but how they respond to that suffering. Your character is revealed only through your conduct.
So all of these linguistic structures, from the deserts of North Africa to the shores of Scandinavia, they all keep bringing the speaker back to the same quiet, powerful, and deeply personal question. It's not, why is this happening to me? It's, given this, how will I stand?
So this is all fascinating, but what does it mean for us, today, speaking English in the 21st century? How can we actually apply this ancient wisdom? Well, that's what we're going to cover next. We can adopt a simple framework that mirrors this logic, one that focuses on our stance and our direction.
The framework is so simple. Who, then how, then what.
And notice the order. This is absolutely key. Most of us jump straight to, okay, what should I do? This framework, a lot like Thomas' side, insists that we start with our identity and our stance before we even think about action.
First up is who. And this isn't about your job title or some life goal you have. It's about your identity commitment in this very moment, expressed as simple adjectives. Am I choosing to be responsible right now? Calm? Dignified? These aren't far-off dreams. They are active, present-tense choices.
Next comes how. This is the critical bridge between who you're being and what you do. If your who is dignified, how are you actually showing that? It's in the way you carry yourself, the tone of voice you use, the way you choose to respond instead of just reacting. The how is what makes the who real.
And only then, after all that, do we finally get to what? The actions you take become the natural result of a clearly defined who and a very deliberate how. When you get the first two parts right, the what to do often becomes surprisingly clear and just falls into place.
And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. You can have the exact same event happen to two people. But if your who is responsible, your how is owning it, and your what is course correcting, you're on that upward spiral. If your who is wronged, your how is blaming, and your what is complaining, well, that's the downward slide. Same reality, totally different stance.
And maybe the most empowering truth in all of this is that the pivot point between these two paths is always available to you. It's not about waiting for your circumstances to change. It is the simple, powerful choice you make in how you decide to stand in this moment, and then in the next one.
It reminds me of something the coach Kitchu Krishnan says. While pain might be a fact of life, suffering is optional. And the moment something is optional, a choice is present. Realizing you have that choice, in your stance, in your words, in your own inner story, that's the first step to reclaiming your agency.
And that brings us right back to where we started. The wisdom of these ancient languages isn't just some cool linguistic fact. It's a direct challenge to every single one of us today. So we'll leave you with that one, essential question to carry with you. Given your reality right now, how will you stand?